Ever feel like you're stuck in financial quicksand during your 30s? You're earning more than ever before, but somehow your bank account doesn't reflect it. Maybe your money vanished into child care costs that rival a mortgage, or maybe it went to funding yet another wedding, because apparently everyone decided to get married simultaneously. If you're in your 30s feeling like you're barely staying afloat financially while watching others seemingly cruise past you, what I'm about to share will completely shift how you think about wealth building during life's most unpredictable decade. I'm Leo, and I make money concepts actually understandable without putting you to sleep with corporate jargon. If you're done feeling like you're falling behind and ready to grasp how wealth really gets built during your most chaotic years, smash that subscribe button and drop a like. If what I share changes your perspective, let me know. Here's something that might catch you off guard. Your 30s aren't when you suddenly have your financial life perfectly sorted. Financial experts actually call this the messy middle, and that label exists for good reason. This decade hits you from every angle at once. Career expectations say you should be advancing up some imaginary ladder. Family obligations kick in as babies arrive or aging parents need support. Social comparison intensifies when friends start buying property and posting vacation photos while you're having cereal for dinner again. But here's what almost nobody mentions about this financial mayhem. It's entirely normal and even more crucial. It doesn't signal you're screwing up with money. This messy middle gets its name because literally everyone experiences it, including people who eventually become wealthy. The distinction isn't that some people dodge the mess completely. The distinction is some people figure out wealth building despite the chaos, while others let it convince them to quit trying. Consider what's actually unfolding in your 30s from a practical angle. Your income is probably higher than it's ever been, which sounds fantastic until you realize your expenses have skyrocketed too. Housing costs have likely doubled since your 20s. Kids turn out to be adorable little money incineration machines. Without kids, you're probably stockpiling for weddings or down payments, which feels like filling a swimming pool with an eyedropper. Meanwhile, everyone around you appears to have everything figured out. Your former roommate purchased a house with multiple garages. Your colleague maxes their retirement while vacationing in Europe annually. Social media feeds overflow with people your age who seemingly have bottomless budgets for renovations and expensive pastimes. It makes you question if you missed some mandatory adulting seminar where everyone else learned the secret formula. Here's a truth that stings initially, but ultimately liberates you. Most of those people haven't figured out their finances either. They're just more skilled at projecting success externally. The typical net worth for someone in their 30s sits much lower than you'd guess. We're talking median net worth around $39,000 by age 30, encompassing everything owned minus everything owed. Breaking that down, most TIs up in vehicles and maybe some home equity. Actual liquid assets and investments, maybe $17,000 for your average 30-year-old. The data gets more revealing. Average Americans don't seriously invest until 33. Median first-time home buyers hit 40 years old. If you started any retirement contributions in your 20s, even $50 monthly, you're outpacing most people. Any emergency savings at all puts you ahead of massive portions of your peer group. This isn't about feeling superior to others. It's showing you this behind feeling is largely manufactured by comparing your financial reality against everyone else's highlight reels. Personal finance isn't some race where everyone starts identically with matching advantages and identical finish lines. It's more like marathons where people start from different points, run different paces, and face unique obstacles throughout. The incredible aspect of your 30s, chaos included, is time remains powerful lie on your side for wealth building. Most people miss this until seeing actual figures. Say you're 30 making 100,000 yearly with 100,000 saved total. That might feel glacially slow, especially reading about people with millions saved by 30. But compound interest becomes your ally here, even when it doesn't feel like it yet. If you did absolutely nothing more, never saved another cent, just let that 100,000 grow at 8% annually, you'd have over 200,000 by 40. Your money literally doubles without any effort. Obvious lie, you won't stop saving entirely. But this demonstrates the power of what you've already accomplished. Managing just $450 monthly on top of existing savings gets you to 3 times annual income saved by 40. That sounds impossible. Examining current budgets, but remember, income typically increases over the next decade too. What stretches finances today becomes manageable as careers progress. The wealth multiplier effect remains incredibly potent in your 30s, early 30s. Every invested dollar potentially multiplies 20 times by retirement. Late 30s, that multiplier still hits around 8 times. Yes, starting in your 20s would have been superior, but starting in your 30s infinitely beats starting in your 40s or 50s. This leads to one of the most critical mindset shifts for building wealth in your 30s. The financial order of operations isn't linear, and your journey doesn't need to be there. Life will interrupt your perfect financial plan probably repeatedly. Job losses, unexpected medical bills, family emergencies, countless situations requiring temporarily pausing wealth building. This doesn't indicate money failure. It indicates living normal human existence, where unexpected events happen. People who successfully build wealth over time aren't those never facing setbacks. They are those understanding financial progress sometimes moves forward, sometimes backward, sometimes sideways while dealing with whatever life delivers. The key is grasping that wealth building in your 30s isn't about perfection. It's about persistence through the beautiful disaster this decade intends to be. You'll have months saving 800 feeling like you're finally getting traction. Then your transmission fails. Kids need braces. Best friends ask you into wedding parties, requiring dresses costing more than monthly groceries. This makes emergency funds absolutely critical, not just for financial health but sanity. Think of emergency funds as buying yourself life margin, 3 to 6 months expenses sitting in boring savings accounts earning nearly nothing. Isn't just catastrophe protection, it's protection from desperate financial decisions derailing wealth building for years. Here's something rarely discussed about emergency funds. Having cash when everyone else is broke actually constitutes wealth building. That gets completely overlooked. When friends' cars break down requiring credit card repairs at 20% interest, you pay cash and move forward. When great investment opportunities require quick action, you have options others simply lack. Recommended emergency fund amounts vary by situation. Steady employment, 3 to 6 months expenses usually suffices. Approaching retirement, that number should increase to 12 to 18 months because recovery time from setbacks decreases. In your 30s, you're probably somewhere between, especially with dependents counting on your income. Now let's discuss something driving me crazy. The number of people in their 30s thinking they need fancy investments because they're somehow more sophisticated now. They'll have 50,000 saved and decide they need individual stock picking or cryptocurrency or complex strategies read online. Meanwhile, their money could quietly grow in boring index funds without becoming financial analysts. Keep investing strategies simple, especially during chaotic decades. Low-cost index funds, target date funds, automated investing are best friends. You don't need impressing anyone. With investment knowledge, you need money growing consistently while handling other demands on time and attention. The goal isn't beating markets. The goal is participating in market growth over time without making it another full-time job. This is where people get caught in what I call busy doing nothing. They'll spend hours researching individual stocks, reading financial newsletters, trying to time markets, all while money sits in cash earning basically nothing because they can't decide on perfect investments. Perfect is the enemy of good for wealth building, especially in your 30s when time is simultaneously greatest asset and scarcest resource. One practical action making huge difference in financial organization is consolidating old retirement accounts. If you're like most people in their 30s, you've probably had several jobs leaving scattered old 401,000 accounts across former employers. Each probably earns different returns, charges different fees, makes seeing complete financial pictures impossible. Rolling these accounts into single IRAs or current employer plans can dramatically simplify financial life. You'll have better performance visibility, likely pay lower fees, rebalance portfolios more easily. It's one of those tasks feeling overwhelming until actually done, then wondering why you waited so long. Here's something else most people completely ignore that's holding them back. In your 30s, income is growing, promotions happen, job switches bring raises, years of service finally bump salaries. Whatever happened, income is probably higher in your 30s than 20s. Here's where most people mess up. They increase spending matching new income. New apartments, new cars, new clothes, nicer restaurants. Suddenly they're making $10,000 more annually and living $10,000 more annually. They call this lifestyle inflation, and it's one of biggest wealth killers in your 30s. All that extra income that could have gone toward futures just gets absorbed into nicer lifestyles. And now you're back living paycheck to paycheck but at higher income levels. People who actually build wealth in their 30s do something different. When raises come, they don't change lifestyles at all. They'll spend hours researching individual stocks. They keep living like before and throw extra money directly into investments or retirement savings. Let me give concrete examples because you need seeing how this actually plays out. Imagine getting promoted and salary bumps from $50,000 to $65,000. You're making $15,000 more yearly. Here is the decision point. If you increase lifestyle to match, you'll basically be in the same spot in 10 years. But if you keep lifestyle the same and increase investments, compound returns start doing heavy lifting. That's the difference between someone who builds wealth and someone who just keeps making more money but stays broke. But here's something even more important than investment strategies or account consolidation. Don't let building wealth become so consuming you. Forget money is supposed to be a tool, not an obsession. Your 30s are likely some of life's most memorable years. You're establishing professionally, maybe starting families, traveling while you still can, creating relationships lasting decades. Yes, you should be saving and investing consistently. Yes, you should be building net worth, but you shouldn't be so focused on hitting arbitrary financial milestones that you miss experiences that matter to you. The goal isn't dying with the most money in banks. The goal is having enough money to live the life you actually want living. This means spending intentionally on things you value while cutting ruthless lie on things you don't. Maybe you don't care about latest cars, but you do care about annual family vacations. Maybe eating out doesn't bring much joy, but having nice homes does. The key is understanding the difference between spending on what you value versus spending on what you think you're supposed to value, based on what everyone else seems doing. Your financial journey in your 30 seconds won't look like anyone else's, and that's perfectly fine. Some people will buy houses early and be house rich but cash poor for years. Others will rent longer and focus on building investment accounts. Some will prioritize paying off student loans aggressively, while others will make minimum payments and invest the difference. None of these approaches is inherently right or wrong. They're just different paths toward the same general destination of financial security. People who successfully build wealth during their 30s understand it's marathons, not sprints. They focus on consistency over perfection, automation over optimization, progress over comparison. They understand some years will be better than others, and limited resources. And building wealth is more about what you do. Financially overwhelmed does NT. Some months will be complete financial disasters. Mean you ray doing anything wrong. Consistent lie over time than what you. Financially overwhelmed doesn't do perfect lie in any given moment. It means you're human living in complex worlds. They understand being in your 30s and feeling with competing priorities. The fact you're thinking about building wealth is most people who eventually become wealthy felt better financial decisions already puts. The fact you ray thinking about building wealth, watching videos like this and trying to make the beautiful irony of feeling behind in your 30s. You ahead of huge percentages of peers. Disasters while making decisions that would. They were convinced they were financial when those decisions felt insignificant at the time. And people who don't isn't that wealthy. And people who don't isn't that wealthy. It's that they kept making good decisions even. It's that they kept making good decisions even. Transform their lives 20 years later. Let's discuss what compound interest actually looks like when you're 30 versus what it felt like when you were 22 and some financial advisor was droning on about the magic of starting early. When you're in early 30s, every invested dollar today has potential to become $20 by retirement. Even pushing 40, that dollar can still become $8. These aren't theoretical numbers pulled from finance textbooks. This is your actual money multiplying itself while you're busy dealing with everything else life throws at you. But here's where people get tripped up. They hear about compound interest and think it means account balances should be growing dramatically every month. Then they check investment accounts after 6 months of contributing $400 monthly and see it's only grown by $2,400 and they think something must be wrong. They're expecting fireworks when compound interest starts as gentle whispers that eventually become roars. The acceleration happens gradually. Then suddenly, for the first few years, most account growth comes from your own contributions. You're doing heavy lifting while compound interest stretches and warms up on benches. But somewhere around year 7 or 8, compound interest tags in and starts pulling its weight. By year 15, compound interest is doing most work while your contributions become supporting players. This is why people in their 50s and 60s often look back at their 30s and say it was the most important decade for their wealth building, even though it didn't feel that way at the time. They were laying foundations they couldn't see, because foundations are underground and boring. But without that foundation, everything that comes later becomes impossible. So here's the truth about building wealth in your 30s that nobody wants to admit. It's messy, it's imperfect, and it probably won't look like the Instagram-worthy financial journey you imagined. But if you can embrace the chaos, keep your strategy simple, and remember that compound interest doesn't care about your timeline, you'll look back in 20 years wondering why you ever worried about being behind. Your future self is counting on the imperfect decisions you make today. If this video has changed your perspective on consumption, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. I am not a financial advisor, mortgage expert, or licensed financial professional. The content on this channel represents personal opinions only and is intended for educational and entertainment purposes. Please conduct your own research and seek professional guidance before making any major financial decisions. See you next time.